like a lot of areas in California that have a more diversified water portfolio. So we do not receive any state or imported water here in our region. It's only what is locally sourced from rainfall that falls on this side of the Santa Cruz Mountains. So it's another challenge that we're faced with. I think with the bar down, I'm not able to. There we go. I solved it. Okay, as mentioned last time, and this is also something that we do like to convey to the community members, is that we did conduct an economic impact study related to a sustainable water supply here in our region. Dr. Brent Haddad with UCSC conducted this study that kind of calculated the benefits related to a sustainable water supply with Pure Water Soquel, being able to meet that water shortage gap and bring our basin to sustainability, provided almost $1 billion in economic benefit from both residential, environmental, and business needs. And the other important thing to note with relationship to this study was that he evaluated the cost of water with and without a water supply. And the findings were that without a sustainable water supply, without an additional source, without having another supply like imported state water, the outcome would be that we would have to charge our customers 3 times as much for water if we didn't have another source. So one thing that we're proud of here is that Soquel Creek Water District and our project Pure Water Soquel has been recognized worldwide. Created a global film series by BBC Storyworks called Beneath the Surface. It featured 16 projects around the world, as you can see on that left-hand side, of projects that were, and it really created, I think, a lot of momentum and understanding of our project and our challenges here. And then, of course, I think what makes us a unique community in terms of really trying to involve others is the community input. So we have on several occasions over the years gone out to ensure that we are working on initiatives that reflect the community's interest. Specifically right here, the 3 take-home messages that I want to highlight is 9 out of 10 of our customers are in support of investment in infrastructure. About 9 out of 10 really want us to take action now, recognizing the seawater intrusion that's been knocking at the door of our groundwater basin. And that 3 out of 4 of our customers are comfortable with Pure Water Soquel as we continue to educate, go out to the community and let them know that the treatment process includes, multi-step microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and then UV and advanced oxidation, that purified recycled water then goes back into the ground to create the multi-benefits of a seawater intrusion barrier as well as groundwater replenishment. As I mentioned previously, we do always try to ensure that we're engaging public and the input. And so just wanting to highlight here, these are just kind of a snippet of things that are available. And this is just a small set of the tools that we use, but we do a monthly e-blast that goes out to nearly 15,000 readers. We maintain a pretty robust website that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that has a plethora of information. We issue news releases on our website as well as out to media outlets. We attend a lot of community events, and of course, we've been doing quite a few tours. Not only is that outreach and engagement just on everything district-wide, we also have built that into the water rate study that you're going to be hearing more tonight. And here, as you can see, with this water rate study that we're conducting in 2023, an ad hoc advisory committee was created. We established this committee in April, and they have been very valuable in providing oversight and recommendations. The committee is comprised of 10 district customers and 2 of our board members, all who are ratepayers. And their goal and the objective is to review the water rate structures, understand the revenue needs, and what kinds of programs and projects that we have in the next 4 years and even out farther than that. And really, it's to provide ideas, feedback, and recommendations to reflect our customer base. It was a very diverse group. You can see on the picture on the right, that was just one of the many meetings that we've conducted over the 6-month process. And then, of course, we're also conducting these public meetings here tonight as we continue to discuss this at board meetings. Oh, yes. You want to go ahead and introduce? And in fact, we do have a committee member here tonight. Olga's right there. Thank you for your participation. Okay, I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to either Leslie or Kevin.
I think you have me. I just heard from Kevin Kostick with Raftellus, and he's engaged on another presentation this evening, so I'll go ahead and cover his slides for him. And Melanie, thank you for that introduction. I think it's important for us to tell that water story over and over again, because our challenges and the steps we're taking to resolve them feed right into our rate study. So tonight we're going to take a look real quick at where we've been on the rate study, the alternatives that we're looking at that you asked us to model and bring back to this meeting, and the impact that might have on customer bills, and then what our schedule is and the next steps for the remainder of the rate study period. So just to recap quickly, we started this process back in April. At that time, the board did indicate that they had some priorities when setting rates. Obviously, financial sustainability. We do need to make sure that the district is able to cover the cost of service. We are a not-for-profit entity, so the cost of service does equal our revenue need. And it's important for us to maintain our district operations and to make sure that we're meeting our reserve requirements and our debt coverage requirements to remain sustainable with our debt covenants and the borrowing that we've done to date. In addition to financial sustainability, obviously legal defensibility is important. And then as well, probably the most important maybe is social equitability. We want to make sure that under the auspices of Prop 218, that we are treating all of our customer classes equally, and that the rates are allocated among the 12% overall annual rate increase, or not rate increase, but revenue increase year over year for a 4-year rate study. So that has kind of fed into the rates and where we are right now. There were some other options available under the finance plan and recovering that revenue. One of them was like a huge bump up in year 1 and then tapering off to about 7.5% in years 2 through 4. But I think we've decided or settled on, roughly the 12% revenue recovery is what we're looking at. Under the cost of service analysis, we have modeled a variety of different structures. We've looked at a uniform rate structure. We've looked at our existing tiered rate structure. We've taken a look at our cost allocations in the environment that we're setting rates in now. And so there is a modified 2-tier structure, and then ultimately the 3-tier structure that the 2 that we're looking at this evening. We have heard the board's concerns. We're trying to respond to some of the concerns you've expressed. We've heard the public's concerns. So we have modeled some different options for you this evening, but as I stated earlier, that needle is not moving a whole lot. The legal environment in which we're setting our rates is a fairly narrow avenue to navigate. So the rate structure modifications we're bringing to you this evening are the revised 2-tier and the 3-tier option for residential customers, assuming a 12% annual revenue increase. And then we have modeled the fixed revenue recovery at 40%, 50%, and 60% of revenue recovery. So let's take a look now at what that means. So on the supply side, there are two different components to our supply costs. And one of those components is just overall basin sustainability, which benefits all of our customers, regardless of how much water is used. And then there is the supplemental supply component that may be more beneficial to higher water users than the lower water users. So we've taken a look and kind of divided the supply costs accordingly. The impacts between the 2-tier and the 3-tier are very similar at the same level of use. So if you're using 2 units, 5 units, 9 units a month, they're very similar in terms of what those tier options look like. The impact across the rates are driven by the modification of the residential rate structure, and then the higher or lower fixed cost recovery has an effect on that bill impact as well. And so we'll take a look at what that looks like for each of those options, the modified 2-tier and the 3-tier. So we can go to the next slide. So as I said, we're going to take a look at the revised or the modified 2-tier rate structure and an alternate 3-tier rate structure. And we're going to look at a revenue recovery on the fixed service charge of 40, 50, and 60%. And as I said before, all of these rates that we're showing you here this evening assume a 12% increase in revenue need. So this is taking a look at the modified 2-tier. This is the volumetric rates. And you can see in the first column, you can see what those rates are currently. Customers are paying $9.10 up to 6 units of water. And then anything over 6 units of water is being billed at $41.23. Our commercial and irrigation rates are a weighted average of the tiered rates for residential, and those are coming in at $15.25 a unit. So if we take a look at the 3 scenarios that we modeled, one of them was 40% fixed service charge, the remaining 60% of revenue coming from the volumetric charge, 50-50, or 60% on the fixed service charge and recovering 40% on the volumetric charge. You can see the impact that has in terms of rates. So you're looking at a range of about $14 for Tier 1 all the way over to $9 for Tier 1, $20 all the way down to $14.69. And then, of course, your commercial and irrigation rates, because we're covering some of the peaking costs now in our rate structure on our volumetric side of the rates, you are seeing some peaking differences between commercial and irrigation. So commercial's coming in anywhere from $17 to $12, and irrigation about $19, $20 down to $12.96. Now the reason for that, as you collect more revenue on that fixed service charge, your volumetric per unit water use rates go down. But that has a different impact on customer bills. So let's take a look. No, we're going to take a look at the 3-tier. So you can see on the 3-tier, it's very similar. We're looking at a Tier 1 from 0 to 4 units, 4 to 8 units in Tier 2, and anything over 8 units in Tier 3. And you can look at the proposed rates under a 40%, 50%, or 60% fixed, and you can see that they're very similar to what you saw under the modified 2-tier. There's not a whole lot of difference there. It is giving our customers a little more water use available to them at the lower tiers before they hit that upper tier. That upper tier is where you see the conservation costs and that kind of thing start to kick in. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide here. This is where we're really going to take a look. Oh, these are the fixed charges. You can tell these aren't my slides. I'm following Kevin's slides. So this is the fixed charge if we were to recover 40%, 50%, or 60% of revenue from the fixed charge. 95, 98% of our customers are on a 5/8 inch meter. We're moving more and more customers off the 3/4 inch meter, so that one's going to be phased out. 1-inch meter, we have very few residential customers utilizing a 1-inch meter, and I don't think we have any residential customers utilizing anything more than a 1-inch. The larger meter sizes are mostly for commercial and irrigation customers. So you can see how that fixed service charge increases depending on whether you're trying to get 40% of your revenue need on the fixed charge or if you're trying to get 60% of your revenue need on the fixed charge. So that increases the more you're trying to recover on the fixed charge, but it also means that our customers don't have as much flexibility in managing their bill through their water use because more of that charge is fixed. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at some bill impacts. So if you were a household using 2 units of water a month, which equates roughly to 1 person, given our standard water use of about 55 gallons per person per day, our current bill is running about $70 for 2 units a month. Under the 40%, that bill would go to 83. 50%, it would go to 90, 34, and for 60%, it would go to $100.56. So you can see the difference there. I mean, you're running all the way from, about $12, $13 increase a month, all the way up to $30 increase a month. So that fixed component does have a significant impact on the bills for low water users. On the 3-tier, you're seeing very much the same thing. You can see the bill impacts are very close to what is shown on the 2-tier, running roughly 82 to 100. As a matter of fact, you get to 60% fixed in Tier 3, and you're exactly where you are on 60% fixed for the other, or I'm sorry, not Tier 3, but for the bill. So you can see those bill impacts mirror each other very closely. There's not a whole lot of difference between the 2 different rate structures, but there is a huge difference between 40, 50, and 60% fixed. Now, if we go to the next slide is going to model it for a household that uses about 5 units a month. And you can see that there again, it does have an impact, but not as great an impact as it would on the low water user at 2 units a month. More of the revenue is being recovered from the fixed service charge at 60% fixed. There's not a whole lot of movement between 40, 50, and 60% fixed at the 5 unit a month consumption level. But then if you hop up to 9 units a month, which is the next slide, it's a month, the bill actually goes down slightly. And that's because of the change in the tiered rates and the cost recovery on the tiered rate side. A lot of that has to do with recovering costs on basin sustainability, assuming a basin-wide benefit. Now that we're bringing the Pure Water Soquel project online, everybody's going to benefit from a sustainable basin, whereas before those startup costs were primarily in Tier 3. So that's why you're seeing the change mainly at the higher tier levels in terms of water bill savings. And again, between the modified 2-tier and the 3-tier, there's not a whole lot of difference in the bill, but there is a little bit of difference on the fixed service charge. For the larger customer or the larger water use customer, the 60% fixed is a much greater savings to them than the 40% fixed. Where the opposite was true on the low water user, it was a much higher impact for them on the 60% fixed and a lower impact to them on the 40% fixed.
And Leslie, if I may chime in, thank you. At the last meeting, we had a member or 2 of the public that were concerned about their family size and the bill impact. And I don't want to go into specifics. I didn't use this much water, but we went back and we worked with them and we analyzed them based on what we were looking at last time the board was. And they would actually, the rate structures being considered at that time would actually benefit them over the year. So they'd be saving money, and they were talking about their situation. So I just wanted to kind of tie back to how it actually reflects in our community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And so let's go ahead and go on to the next slide. So this is just exactly what you saw on the previous slide, the previous 3 slides. You're seeing a comparison of the monthly bill impacts side by side now for a 2-unit, 5-unit, and 9-unit household at the 40, 50, and 60% level. So you can see where it's more beneficial to a lower water user to have a lower fixed service charge, and it's more beneficial to a high water user to have a higher fixed service charge. There again, the difference between the revised 2-tier model and the 3-tier model is not much. They're very similar. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And so this just kind of breaks it down a little bit, the same things we've been looking at in terms of the impact of the bill on the customer for the 40, 50, and 60% fixed service charge. This is broken down into dollars per day, and it also extrapolates out over the full 4 years so that you can see, because of the rate structure modifications that we're discussing now in year 1, that impact is greater in year 1 than it is in subsequent years. In subsequent years, that increase in the water bill is not as significant as it is typically in year 1. What else have we got? Oh, this is the 5, and this is the same slide we just looked at for the 2-unit household. This is the 5-unit household. And you again can see the impact per day. We're looking at about $1 per day impact. And that decreases as you go out over time because that first year is impacted by the structural changes to the rates. The subsequent years are just impacted by the increase in revenue need. And here we are for the 9-unit customer. Their bill is going to go down the first year because of those structural changes, but then in subsequent years it would go up relative to that first year. It would go up by the annual revenue need, increase in revenue need. And so those are the models that we're presenting this evening. Both of those, or all of those residential rate alternatives differentiate between basin-wide sustainability in terms of what supply costs are allocated to basin-wide sustainability to just supplemental supply. This looks like it's the same slide we looked at earlier. Impacts between the revised 2-tier and 3-tier options are very similar. We saw that throughout all 3 of those options and at all 3 levels of use, that those 2-tier and 3-tier options are virtually identical. And then the impact across the users, again, are driven this first year in particular. The modification of the residential rate structure is impacting that first year of rates. And then over the course of the rate study, of course, that would settle down and that increase would only then be 12%. The lower your fixed revenue recovery, the lower the impact to low water users. The higher your fixed revenue recovery, the higher the impact to low water users, and vice versa for high water users. The committee didn't have an opportunity to see this model, but I think the committee's recommendations had been either the 2-tier or 3-tier options, and their recommendation had been the 50-50 cost recovery, which I think is what we presented to you at the November 20th meeting.
That's what I recall.
Yeah. And then just to give you an idea of where we are in the rate study process, we are here at the Tuesday, December 5th meeting. We've brought you these rate alternatives. We've got another meeting on Tuesday, December 19th, where we hope to be able to have Raftellus bring a draft rate report to you. The intent is to go ahead then, once that rate report is formalized and approved by the board, we can go ahead then with noticing our customers with a Proposition 218 mailer. And then we anticipate having an open house and an open house actually and a webinar before we have our public hearing 45 days after the mailer goes out. You're welcome. And just to recap your board actions tonight would be to provide us with direction regarding these structures that we presented this evening. Give us an idea of which ones you'd like to see brought back to you in the draft rate report, or you can take no action.
Thank you. I think, first of all, in view of what happened at the last meeting, we'll, have board members ask any technical questions.
Yeah,
Would have the
I
board
have a hard time picking it up
ask
in the back.
some technical questions and then open it up to the public. So, are there any questions?
So one of them, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of difference between the effect on the rate, ratepayers on the 2-tier or 3-tier. I mean, they're very similar at various levels. But I didn't know if there was any other information that would help us to make a decision on those that might be helpful. That's one thing. Secondly, I had asked if there was any possible way to save money so we didn't have to increase it quite as much, and I didn't know if you'd looked at that. And then just, those are my 2 questions, and then I just wanted to just say that, none of us want rates to go up. But we have a commitment, all of us, to providing, high quality water, and we have a commitment to saving the basin and providing good quality water for years to come. And I just wish that wasn't expensive. And I think we've done a good job of trying to get grant money and all that. But I feel like we have a great staff, and it seems like a lot of the costs for keeping everything running are for our staff. And I feel like they all want to have a good place to work and be able to keep up with inflation and I feel like we provide a good place to work, and that we want to attract and keep people that care about water and that feel like it's a good place to stay for a career. I think it's a more effective organization. So a lot of reasons that, even though we wish we didn't have to, I think we have to take care of our basin, our customers, and our employees.
I just wanted to respond to your first question. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I was looking at the 2 rate structures are different in a way that's hard to show. But somebody that uses, let's say, a low amount of water, and then they have company, or they end up with an extra kid in the house, and maybe they were below the threshold for the first thing, with the three rates structure, they're not hit so hard for that. It's not like, oh, this kid came to stay with me and all of a sudden it's $100 more. Or my toilet leaked and now I'm paying $250 when I usually pay $70, which actually happened to me. So I have a feel for people that are at that point, and that's why we looked at the 3 rates. That's what it was for. And the comparisons aren't as good because the spread of usage. I mean, at the lower end, it's not going to be that much different, but at the higher end, it is of that range. Yeah, in that middle range. Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, we heard after the last rate meeting, we heard a lot of comments from larger families about how difficult it was to keep their water rates down, and the committee heard that commentary, the rate committee, and responded with a preference for the 3-tier because it would be a softer landing.
And even any of these are taking care of one of the big worries I had is before they would go from, single digits up to $40 a unit, suddenly. So they're way better as far as being equitable for families of various sizes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, just one,
Oh, you,
no need. There's an inconsistency on page 42 of 58, and I think I've talked with you about this before, Ron, and forgive me. The 5/8 inch and the 3/4 inch meter costs are the same, even though and I think the response last time was there's not a lot of them and we're phasing them out.
The 3/4 inch meters are older meters, and we are in the process of phasing them out. But the new ultrasonic 5/8 inch meter has a flow rate very similar to the old 3/4 inch meter, and that's why they're being handled the same. It's all to do with flow rate.
And so if I understand this correctly, you're apportioning the sustainability of the basin, and there's also flow peaking as part of this as well, on setting the rates.
Correct. We are capturing some of the peaking on the volumetric side, which is why you're seeing a difference between the irrigation customer and the commercial customer. And then the supply costs are being allocated across all users because there is a basin-wide benefit to all users who take water from the basin are receiving the benefit of a sustainable water source, of a sustainable basin.
Okay, thanks.
Director LaHue, I believe you had a question that Ron was going to answer?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that if you like right now, or did you want to hear?
I think everybody.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'd like to start out with, before I just jump into cost savings. Nobody likes rate increases. Nobody. Yeah, I don't think there's a person out there, whatever bill it is, but to supply high quality water 24/7 and to fend off seawater intrusion is, it's not inexpensive to do that, and that's what we're faced with. And you'll see that other agencies are facing the same thing. Even Grover City, I believe, Grover Beach, 20% rate increases. I've seen some 50. So there's this precipice that you can see being hit in the water industry, whether you're an agency that didn't keep up with your infrastructure and your parents put that in and you're having to pay that bill. Fortunately, the district saw that coming and it's been doing that because we knew we had a seawater intrusion. So I just want to say there's no easy way out. It's expensive, but the alternative is even worse, right? Seawater intrusion costs more, use less. With cost-saving measures, as the board knows, we come to you every year with what we call an efficiency memo outlining items. It's just built into our system. So where can we save? What can we do? And I jotted it down. I had somebody jot down. So I can name a few of what we've done. I know you're looking forward to going to the future, but I think if I was sitting out there in the crowd, I'd like to know, there's two things, right? Getting money and conserving money. There's actually a third I'll touch on, but for the sake of the audience, we've done some big things, and I can talk about those at the end, but I think the small things give you the best reflection of who we are. And so I'm going to call off a couple of those. We just recently outsourced daily deposits to a lockbox, allowing for a half-time reduction in a billing position, so a half-time FTE. Thank you, Leslie. We changed our merchant processing for credit cards that saves us money. We refinanced our certificates of participation in 2020. That saved about a $7 million customers' money over the life of that. We have prepaid certain things down like OPEB and PERS, which Leslie may like to talk about tonight, but that is like prepaying your house payment. And yeah, everybody takes a little bit hit now, but in the long run, I think we estimated about 50 grand a year or something around that by doing that, maybe more. So these are the things we do. We get a list together of the software and stuff that everybody needs and updates, and then we don't buy it. We wait until like a Black Friday. We have somebody who watches that, and it was just done, I think, recently. I saw, hey, your stuff will be coming because we can get a deal. One thing that I'm very excited and proud about that I've never seen really done, and I think we've transferred this to many agencies and organizations that I'm involved with, what Leslie brought to the table. When you're a public agency and by our policy, you're not really allowed to invest in very risky stuff. We have to keep your money very safe, right? That's just the land of a public agency. However, and so interest rates have been so low that there was nothing, or we would be getting about 0.2% or something like that, I think, in Lath. And then we saw interest rates climb up to like 5, 6, 7% and discount rates. And so we started taking your money and putting it in CDs, federally insured, through different banks up to $250K. So if the bank fails, you get your money back at, I don't know, 5% on average.
Yeah, we're getting about 5%.
So, I mean, when I shared that with other agencies and a couple organizations I'm involved with, they started doing the same because you get locked into, we can't make any money. But so that was another big one. I could go on for that. The other, of course, mega one is not a cost savings, but we have actually stayed up all night running, flying, driving in cars, and many other episodes to win you grant and low interest loans. So the grant funding is close to $100 million. I don't think I've ever seen an agency our size. You know, we're a small agency, but we've got a big problem. That's how we're recognized from the outside, to garner such funding. And it's not just the funding, you know, 65 million roughly from the State Water Board, 30 million recently from the Bureau of Reclamation. But the Bureau of Reclamation controls half the water in the West. They are the premier federal water entity. The State Water Board is the premier California water agency, and they're investing in your money. Then we got an EPA loan. The loan is like, what, 1.6? 1.3. So the delta, if you had to go out on the street and get a loan, that's millions of dollars itself. So there's many things we have done. We went back and looked at it, and we made a list of things that we could do that I don't think are going to make it in time for this rate structure. So I'm moving from the past to the future. But things like somebody brought up property. Potentially, we own two really probably semi-valuable properties. The Glenwood property, although it's 100 acres, it's so steep, it's not valued that highly. And then, of course, the property next to our agency, which is probably worth a couple million. We have to evaluate as we go, work with our neighbors through an optimization study, which is a $7.6 million, another grant we got, to see if there's any benefit to them or us, and whether we need that property and other properties. So that kind of thing is going to be a ways out. We looked at a host of things, and I'm not going to bore you with the list, but all the way down to, there's this thing called Harvest Host, where if you have a little RV, you can park on public entities' property overnight, and you just park and go the next morning, but you slip like 20, 25 bucks in the slot or whatever. And the point of that is that money could be used for others that need it. It's not tied up to whatever, but we're exhausting everything. Cell phone towers, allowing that was another idea. But the bottom line is, of all those ideas, we don't think there's anything that could be, if it was to be acted upon, you know, even building places to rent, you know, that was another thought, but could be done in the time frame for this rate study. However,
We do have possibly one option available to the board. We did go back and look at, as Ron indicated, one of our cost-saving measures is to pay down that unfunded pension and other post-employment benefit liability that we have on our books. By paying that down earlier rather than later, we saved the district a ton of money in avoided interest costs. However, we have the ability this year, if you are interested, in taking the money that we would have set aside for pre-funding and not spending it on pre-funding, that would be available to reduce the revenue need in year one to help offset that impact of the structural changes on our customers, if you were so interested. If we were to do that, it would probably drop the revenue need in year one from 12% down to about 10%. I wouldn't recommend doing it every year simply because it is a cost-saving measure, but I think if we did it 1 year to help our customers with that structural change, that might be an option available to you.
And then what would be the estimated savings that we would be foregoing on that?
In year one, because of the interest rate environment that we're in right now, I don't think we'd see that big of an impact because we are getting a better return on the money that's set aside for unfunded liabilities. We are getting a better return on it right now than we have in years past. So if we were back in the ages of 2% interest, I would maybe not suggest it. But right now, the earnings on that are sufficient that I think it would float us for a year. We wouldn't have to make those payments.
So I just want to, sometimes it slips out that we're talking about a rate increase. We're really not, there is a change in the rate structure, but the real increases in the revenue that's needed.
Correct.
And our task here is to come up with a rate structure that is fair, as fair as possible for the needed revenue increase.
Correct.
Okay.
In the next meeting, we will talk about what that means, right?
Let me ask, we just got word from back there that they're having a hard time picking up some of the board members.
Yeah,
So
that
if you would be like,
I'm usually too
Yes.
loud. So.
yeah. For all of you though, we just got noticed.
So what was your question, Director?
My question was that the next hearing that we're doing, or the next meeting, is when we talk about what the rates are going to be.
That is when the draft report would come to you and would show you exactly what those rates are going to be. Now, I've shown you this evening what the rates would be under the 40, 50, or 60% scenarios,
Assuming 12% increase.
assuming a 12% increase. Now, I can tell you that if we were to enact a 10% increase in revenue this year rather than 12%, because we would be not doing the pre-funding, on a 2-unit bill, the impact, instead of being like $19 a month, $19.72 a month, it would be down to about $18.15. So it saves them a little over $1 a month. On a 5-unit bill, that impact is closer to $2.50 a month. So it's not huge. You know, when you take something like that and you extrapolate it out over 14,000 customers, the impact of it gets diluted. It's hard to move that needle. I think we've shown that a little bit by coming back to the board a couple of times now with some rate alternatives, and you can see that needle hasn't moved much each time, but a little bit every time is, you know, every little bit helps, I'm sure.
Well, it's a far cry. I have the figures at Grover Beach, and they're asking for having to impose a 24% increase the first year of their rate study because they don't have haven't been able to get the funding that we did for the projects they needed to do to prevent seawater intrusion. This is a place down south. And I also heard from Honolulu, Hawaii, they're imposing a 63% rate increase over 5.5 years because of the same reason. They're all over the world, the options for finding new water sources are getting harder and harder. It's not merely digging a well. It's coming up with a complicated project to prevent seawater intrusion. I mean, 70% of the world's coastal areas are at risk at the moment for contamination due to seawater intrusion. So this is an immense problem worldwide. And the projects designed to available to solve that problem are limited and expensive. So we are really, by jumping in and moving as quickly and decisively as we did in the past 8 years, we have come to this where we are not talking about a 24% increase. We are talking about 12 and maybe 10%. I'd like to hear from the public at this point if you've understood what's going on, and if you don't, your questions, and if you do, your comments on it and your reaction. So.
Hi, Chris Kirby. So we didn't get financials for 4 months, and we've got them last month, and we didn't get any more today. And I've heard Leslie say that we have the water district has an $11 million shortfall. Where does it show that? Where are the financials? It's like you're just trying to do this increase, but where does it make sense financially for us to see that? That's a fair question. I mean, she just doesn't give us financials every month. I don't understand that. Isn't that her job, her responsibility? Shouldn't we see that?
I think I saw those financials.
I can't hear you.
Finance
You're not,
status reports were presented to the board last meeting.
but that was a month ago. So is there an $11 million shortfall?
Ms. Kirby, please,
Not,
please,
not in
please,
1 year, it's over
Miss-
a span of 3 years.
Ms. Kirby, please, I would suggest you use your time, and then we can, if the board so chooses,
So
respond.
that's a no answer. It's also confusing to people, the 2 to 3 tiers where it goes from 6 to 4, and nobody really talks about that. So you're getting less water. I don't know. It's kind of unclear. And I'd also like to know, the Pure Water Soquel, can you guys guarantee the cleanness of it and that it's pure for us to drink? I'd like to know if there is a guarantee of that.
I think it's state law requires us to have that.
Yeah,
It would just be nice for you guys to say, we guarantee that it's good, clean water, because it scares most of the people out there. Your numbers on that chart are not what when I talk to people. We sit out places and talk to people about it, and people are freaked out about it. So it would be nice to see the financials where this really is a needed thing.
Can I just address a couple things?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the question about the difference between the 2-tier and 3-tier, it's just a number, it's the amount of water used. So there's a certain price for the first 4 units, and then another tier for 4 through 8, and then above 8. The 2-tier has the break point at 6. So there's a price for 0 to 6, and then the second tier is 6 or above. So that's the difference there. And as far as, I'll just make a comment on water quality. We've said it before, but we went through a long process to make sure that it would be safe for people, and had experts from toxicology, the water industry. I feel very comfortable that the technology is safe. It's been used in Orange County for 40 years, and it keeps, so there are fail safes to protect us all, that no water that's contaminated would go into our groundwater. So I feel comfortable, but it wasn't initially. We all had to have it proven to us. So.
Nicole Malcolm. So the tier levels, I don't really understand what's behind the choices for the tiers or any of the particulars to understand the final result. But what's curious to me is, and I sympathize with the gal with the large family and the higher water bill, because that's a reality for people who use more water than other people who don't, whether it's by family or irrigation, larger property, whatever the situation is, especially for a large family. So I'm wondering, since we're supposed to be saving water and the focus is to manage towards reduced use of water, why more water usage would actually be less costly is a question to me. So that I'm just going to put that out there. And then secondly, something popped into my head after the last meeting we attended, and I encourage you to kind of think about, it seems like there's a lot of collaboration with UCSC, and they are here in our area. I'd like to see you maybe start talking about maybe a scholarship or something and have the UCSC participate in one of their environmental type classes. You were talking about wanting to get young people involved. Have them go to it and present to you their different program plans and have a scholarship for a winner of the plan that really is a viable plan. Maybe you'll get some other ideas, you know? And it would be a really positive way to involve the university and the kids. And I think really a useful focus. So just an idea.
Can I make a point on
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, but your question about the tiers again, there's still, if someone uses more water and goes into the next tier, it's still costing them more per unit of water. Still costing more per gallon of water. But it's costing them more for each. So you're going to be better off, and it's still got a conservation incentive. It's cheaper to use less water.
So they're not going to be able to hear you because you're not up at the mic. So I just want to let
I
that
was just
TV pick up.
answering the question
Yeah.
after the comment.
So I can definitely, if the board would like, I think those were thoughtful questions. And I'll start with the big question, the tier structure, and why is it geared toward helping larger families, but might it's higher cost to the lower users. And in the past, we saw that we didn't know if we were going to a supplemental supply, Pure Water Soquel was going to come online. So we said anybody who's using above the sustainable amount could be contributing to further overdraft over the sustainable amount. So that was where the majority of the costs lied before we knew whether we would actually have the plant come to fruition, which is about 80, 90% done now. Now we see that it will be producing water to the benefit of not just higher users, but to the sustainability of the basin to fight seawater intrusion. And mind you, the seawater intrusion started back in the 80s. So it's not just by high users, it's by everybody. So the idea is that as the plant comes on, it's not just to the benefit of the high users, whether it's a large family, as you said, large lawn, everything you said was spot on, but it's to the benefit of everybody to protect that supply. It doesn't matter whether you're a low user, high user, or you've switched over time, or will switch again. That seawater barrier that we're presenting, the hydraulic barrier, will protect our water supply, where, as I said, so many have failed. I don't know if you were here for the first part, but the vast majority of regions of the world have failed at doing this. And we have this moment in time due to technology, being in position. So that's the shift fundamentally. Does that help? So does that kind of, okay.
If you'd like to
So-
contact us
Yeah.
later after the meeting, maybe we could delve into it.
Yeah, I'd be glad to give you my card. And then a couple other questions were UCSC. We have engaged UCSC quite a bit. they did an economic study, I think was presented. Did you see, I don't know if you saw that, but it, okay, okay. And then we worked with Dr. Fisher, who helped us see if there was any places to do recharge in the basin. So that was quite an extensive study. I also occasionally teach up there. They asked me to come present on water, and we have, I don't know if we've had an intern from up there or not. I think maybe Harbor High and some other schools. But to tell you the truth, we typically focus on Cabrillo College, and then and Santa Cruz kind of takes UCSC for the most part. But we have a lot of collaboration with Cabrillo. So I tried to take notes. I hope that's of some help. Anyway.
I'd like to comment also. Just to reiterate, there's really a paradigm shift here going on in terms of the rate structure. And that shift is, like Ron talked about, the fact that we are close to having the supplemental water supply online, which will be recharged and injected into the low parts of the basin, the parts of the basin with low water levels, to keep seawater to slow or stop or reverse seawater intrusion makes a big difference. Because before, when we were the rate structure was heavily, part of the goal, you have to be fair, you have to be legal, but part of the goal was we didn't have that supplemental water supply, so we didn't know whether we could stop the seawater intrusion. And by people using less water, that at very least would slow it down. So it's a real paradigm shift. It would be great if we were doing this a year or two from now, after Pure Water Soquel was online, and we were able to see what the effects of the recharge and injection are, and that it's working. But it's not how it happens. We have to do the rates now.
And I'll just add, it is hard to understand. It's a lot of information. And, these are business meetings that are presented to the board, but we do try to break it down. But that's even the real reason why we have a advisory committee. I think 10 community members volunteered for that and stuck it out. One of them's here tonight since April, meeting numerous times to help digest it and put forth a recommendation, and that's what's in front of the board tonight. So not everybody has to do the heavy lift, and to ensure that, their input is being captured and hopefully conveying the majority of the thoughts of the community, digesting that, so not everybody has to do the heavy lift, because it's tough. I think you have one more member, it looks like, President Christensen.
There might be more.
Yeah.
If you want. Great.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Trink Praxel, and I live in the Seascape area. I've been to some of the meetings in the past, but I knew looking at a rate structure is always very challenging, very difficult, and I wanted to present the voice of many of your users who understand the drastic situation that we have been in and really support the the project and everything that the board and the staff have done to receive additional funding and support that. And people I talk to really understand that and support this, what you're doing. And I just know that often you only hear the negative side. I thought it was important to come tonight and tell you that there's a positive perspective out there as well. And I think as you go through the next couple of months with the workshops and hearings, et cetera, I hope that you'll hear more of that. As many of you said, nobody likes a rate increase, but when you can explain the rate structure changes, which I understand what you're talking about, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to see the consideration of that 3 level and of being able to reduce that high increase that happens right now in the second level. I think that's really going to help many people. It's still going to be a little bit more money, but it won't be as much as it could have been, with, it seems to be with this a 2 rate, so the 2 level. So hang in there, keep going, and I think you'll find the support for it out there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at the last meeting, I brought up the possibility of a tax somehow for people moving into the district to offset the cost so that we can kind of take the onus off the people that live here. There's all this mandated growth by the state. It's kind of interesting that we see mandated growth requests, yet they're acknowledged that the water is a problem. So, we're expecting that energy costs are going to go up, electricity and water, and it's just going to be too much for people who are fixed income. So is there a way to do this? And I talked to Ron about this after the last meeting, and he said he would talk to legal about whether there was a way to do that because of Proposition 218. So I read through 218, and it seems like there is a pathway to make something like that happen. It would take, I think, 2/3 vote from the residents to institute some sort of fee for incoming people into the district. And if we could figure out like the number of people coming in and how that might change the numbers a little bit, that we could then in the future reduce the increases. Also, part of the problem is people being able to afford this. So there's all this talk about ADUs, which if people can afford them and there's ways for them to do that, that would supplement their income and allow them to afford. The hookup fees in this district are outrageous. So it makes it hard for people to even consider it. So that's something I'd like to see if it could actually decrease that. I know that's kind of moving in the wrong direction, but at the same time, it might produce some ability for people to afford in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
You want to reset the timer? I've only got 3 seconds. Can't talk that fast. Becky Steinbrunner. It's too bad that Ref Tellis, who's being paid $161,000, can't be here to answer some of these questions. I'm glad to see Mr. Nelson here because to be legally defensible, your rate increase has to show a need. We haven't seen any figures. We've only heard a verbal comment from the Director of Finance that we're here because of an $11 million shortfall. We have seen no figures. We have seen no figures in terms of the different rate increase, the different structuring, the different percent of fixed income. We have seen no figures to show what is a 12% revenue increase? What is that dollar amount? And why do you need that amount? It has to be legally defensible. And it's not in the way that it's being presented. It's given in vague terms that we are expected to accept without any documentation at all. What is the cost per unit of the Pure Water Soquel water? I asked that before, it wasn't answered, and that must be determined because that's what you're asking people to pay. You're asking people, you're calling it a sustainability fee, but it is to pay for the Pure Water Soquel project and the debt that has come with it. While we may have a saltwater intrusion problem, your board and your staff have chosen the most expensive way to address it. It is concerning to me that the Director of Finance keeps saying this is not moving the needle much. So what is happening here? We have no figures to help us understand what that is about. Please put into writing and figures what costs are being cut. Giving someone a $1,600 a month bonus,
Thank you, Ms.
$1,000 a month bonus,
Steiner Bruner.
it's,
Please be respectful.
Enough.
you've answered other people's questions.
Please be
Are
respectful.
you going
of the
to
time.
answer mine?
Not asking a question.
What sets mine apart from the other people?
Please be respectful of your
All
time.
right, and then in closing, I'm just going to say on slide 9, where it compares the 3-tier volumetric rates, that's not fair because the new tier 2 extends into straddles the old tier 1 and old tier 2. So those values are not fair and not correct.
Thank you very
And people have been trying to help you understand that, but it's not fair. And I don't believe it's legally defensible.
much. Thank you for your comments.
I really appreciate you guys putting out the 40%, 50%, and 60% out there. I don't know how the others feel, but after I looked at them all, I'm back where we started at 50% being kind of a good middle ground. I don't know how the others are.
I agree. When you're given 3 choices, the middle is usually the choice, but it also looks reasonable. And 3-tier rather than 2 to give our customers more control over their water bill. I don't know what the other directors think, but first of all, I want to thank the public for being here and for talking. I know that it feels like you're not being heard, but you are being heard. So I want to let you know that.
We can reiterate, President Christensen, if you like, what we're asking the board to do tonight, since we don't have the motion up in front.
We
think
still have,
I think it's staff direction on what
okay.
to come back with, right?
That's correct. No motion is required. It's an option. We could just do staff direction if that's the preference of the board.
Jennifer has something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we're obviously tasked with a very difficult decision. And as directors, we're guided by our principles. And in this case, we have to follow fairness, social equity, legal defensibility, and fiscal responsibility as our guiding principles. And it seems to me that the 3-tiered structure does encourage and reward conservation, allows for individuals to take responsibility for their household water use, offers financial incentives for people to use water efficiently, and promotes environmental stewardship. I do think, though, that, to really find and honor the fiscal responsibility, that the 60% fixed rate service charge ensures a stable source of revenue, promoting fiscal responsibility for the water district. And the steady income helps cover operational costs and maintenance, reducing reliance solely on variable water consumption. And the stability will contribute to long-term financial planning and infrastructure investment. And then further, I just think that what Leslie had proposed today should be followed up on. So that's my staff direction. I mean, I do think that it sounded like an idea to not do the pre-funding and to bring that first year down to 10%. I mean, I really like that. I know you said it doesn't change the needle much, but small things really matter. So that's my input, and thank you.
that's pretty good. Any other comments?
I think I made most of mine earlier. I'm all for the 3-tier. I have been for through the process. I decided that was the best way to go for people, especially because it did touch my heart that people with more kids, they may be using 25 gallons a day per person, but they just have too many people, so they end up being hugely hurt financially by it when all of us are maybe using 20, 25 per person, and we're under that needle where the 400 cubic feet ends, or the 5, and it goes to the next level. So that was my reason, and it seems like 40, 50, 60% doesn't add that much to any individual person or individual household. So I'm not sure if you shouldn't go to 60. I mean, I'll go with whatever. I'm not going to get mad if somebody's not agreeing with me on that one. But there's a point where there's a lot of like back and forth stuff about details, and we could be out there just wrestling all those details and it'll still end up being the same. It's not an easy subject, and little tiny details here and there about $100 here, $1,600 there isn't going to make a difference. Just like $2 million costs our ratepayers what, $200 each or $1,000? I mean, it's how do we reduce our costs? Maybe we should look at reducing our costs for legal actions.
So just to clarify, the options being presented to you this evening would lower bills for larger households because they are hitting that high upper tier, that tier 2 rate at $40 a unit. So it would help smooth that a little bit for some of your larger households. But I do want to point out that I have received notification from the state, and I know Senator Padilla is working on this, but they are looking at making the low-income household water assistance program, we call it the LIWAP, but it's similar to the LIHEAP for energy. They're talking about making that permanent. And of course, the district will participate. We are participating now. It's something you have to enroll in as an agency. The moment they made it available, the district enrolled, and we have made it available to our customers. If they make it permanent, then that will help some low-income households. We continue to outreach that whenever we can. We continue to talk to customers on the phone to try and make them aware of that program. The other thing is I know that there is an extension of the COVID arrearage program that we're looking into that might benefit some of our customers as well. So we are looking at every avenue available to us to help those customers who might be struggling a little bit.
So I have some things I'd like to see for next meeting.
Okay.
I think this is digestible, going 2, 5, and 9. Let's make a curve. Let's have all water uses and see what the difference is. It seems like 40% fixed is off the table. 50 and 60% fixed are on the table, been talked about. So maybe a continuous curve with water use, and you could do it in, 100 cubic feet. And the difference between the current bill and the proposed bill.
Okay, just to clarify,
Just to make it really clear, I'm going to just make a motion, and then we can see that we have him bring back the 3 tiers, and I'm proposing 50%. And I've seen it over the years slowly get more and more, and I think this is a gradual increase.
Finish discussing on the.
Okay, but I can still,
You
we
can make the
can leave the
motion,
motion,
discuss.
and that we also use the savings that she talked about for delaying the payments to the pension plan, so that can be only a 10% increase. So I'm just putting it out there, 53 tier, and utilizing that 10% first year, and then keep discussing.
We could look at 60 for next year or next time or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was. We could look at 60% for a future rate study.
Well, the reason I'm not letting go of the 60 necessarily, I was part of the group at the rate committee that we agreed on the 50%, but the non-mythical $11 million that we experienced was due to decreased water sales. And I think when you look at these, the structures in the past fixed costs that we charged in the previous rate study, looked like it was 40%.
Roughly 40%, yes.
And I'm worried that 50% is just not enough because we're moving into volatile times. According to our climate modeling, I think we are in uncertain times climate-wise. I think we need a little bit more stability. And I'd like to discuss it further before we give up on it.
My reasoning is partially just because it hits having go to 60% hits the lowest users the most. And while I wanted to see things even out, I just thought maybe it seemed like too much at once for the lowest water users.
I think that's a fair argument, too.
It'd be, if you use 2 HCF, which is under 50 gallons a day, the proposed bill at 60% would be at $100.56. $10 less if you do 50%. So I think it's a very simple thing to do, to plot up 50 and 60%, what the difference between current rates and proposed rates are. And the other piece of information I'd like to see is how many people are in these different classes. Because there's a lot of people in that in the lower classes.
Correct. And I believe that was in the slides for the November 20th meeting.
Then you wouldn't have to do any additional work,
Yeah.
but just
Yeah.
plot it up.
I think it's roughly,
Do you have access to it right now? Oh, we don't have a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe by the time
like 12,000 people.
by the time you hit 5 units a month, you're covering at least 70% of our customer base, 71%, I believe. By the time you hit 9 units a month, 8 or 9 units a month, you're at 93%, I think, of our customer base.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But when you're looking at just only 2 and not including other people that use 2 and above.
yeah, that's like 40-ish, somewhere around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then are half of them rentals?
A lot of the people who are using 2 units a month or less are people who are using no water.
Right.
And that would be a lot of your second homes and vacation.
Yeah.
properties. Yeah.
That makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can point out that the higher fixed rate would target those vacant houses too. Would make it more socially equitable.
President Christensen, just from a
Say 50 or
procedural,
60.
60.
Yeah.
just from a procedural perspective, we do have a motion on the floor, so we may wish to see if there's a second, and if there isn't, then we could move to an alternate.
Could we repeat the?
3-tier and 50% fixed, and utilizing the savings that Leslie described for the pension prepayment this year, so to make the increase only 10% the first year. That's fine if we propose something else.
Can I go for another motion? I did the exact same as Tom, except for I'd make it 60% fixed rate.
I'd second that.
We just do a voice vote? All in favor?
It's the board's discretion whether you wish to have a voice vote or a roll call vote.
Before we vote, I agree with Tom that, what 60% does, if you look at the 9 100 cubic feet a month is it decreases from the current bill by over $50. So what you're doing is you're shifting the burden to the lower users. And I'm okay with having it be more, no big shifts, no step increases for higher use or less step increase. But I'm not sure I want to shift that burden to the
Yeah,
12,000 or 70% of our users who are less.
see, it's
Then-
$17 a month approximately.
A
more or less.
quick comment, maybe all of the low users, including myself, haven't been paying our fair share in infrastructure costs and maintenance costs all these years.
And I'll just elaborate on that in case it's,
I don't,
Did he say 17 or 7D?
70%.
No, dollars.
It was about $18. It's 82, the difference between the 40 and the 60. The proposed.
I misheard that. I was like,
at the 2 HCF.
Yeah, no, I'm completely lost.
Are you talking about the proposed fixed charge? The difference in the proposed fixed charge from 50% to 60% is about, looks like about $16 a month more, $16 or $17 a month more if it's 60% as opposed to 50%.
For the
5/8
5/8.
inch, for a 5/8 inch meter, correct.
And there's an additional increase in the volume charge at the low water use too.
Right.
Yeah.
Combined is a little bit more.
So I think the comment.
What do you
that-
need? For next meeting, you have to have a draft plan.
Yeah, I have to be.
So we have to decide between 50 and 60.
So go ahead.
So Director Lather, I think the clarification on your question was from page 43 of 58 of the packet, where the current bill for a household that uses 2 units of water is currently at $70.54. For a 50% split, the proposed bill would go up to $90.34, and then 34 cents, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The 3-tier, $90.26, and the 60% fix would go up to $100.56.
so now I know what my bill's going to be.
You don't change your usage.
I mean, wasn't there a motion and a second
Yeah.
for this
We haven't had the vote
60%?
yet. We were trying to
Right.
have the vote. There was, this is hard for all of us, the clarifications. Well, yay or nay? Let's go down the list if we're not allowed to.
But you are, so just a clarification, if you'd like to do a roll call vote, you can. If you'd like to do a voice vote,
just
you do,
gonna go
it's up to the board, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Very resounding.
Passes. The low voices were nay and the high voices.
So we will return at the December 19th meeting with a draft rate report incorporating the 3-tier structure and a 60% fixed charge.
Okay.
And the reduction in the first year costs of the pre-funding.
President Christian, it's okay. I just want to make a brief comment about the public comment related to defensibility. I just want to provide a little context, both for the board and also for the public. Everything that we have done, including tonight, is additional transparency beyond what's required. So what's required for Prop 218 to establish defensibility is that rate study, which sort of is the homework that we're doing to justify the rates. So everything that staff has done to date, everything the board has directed us to do to date is additional transparency to help the public sort of understand the need for this and also for you to carefully consider all of your options. So going forward is really when the defensibility piece starts, based on all the work we've done to date. Thank you.
So my earlier request is null and void. We've decided.
Too bad I didn't suggest 55%.
Yeah, you could have.
I would have gone for the 55. I would have gone for 55. Well, is there anything else required of us here tonight?
Yeah, there's 7.5, which is
Oh, I mean, not the next
consider
this item.
board appointments for various standing committees. And I think Emma's going to talk to this one. She wrote the memo, so you want to take it away, Emma? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like, well, I also want to apologize that the screen's not working. There was a power outage this week in this room, and so some of the technology has been acting a little bit funky. So item 7.5 presents all of the district standing committees and boards that the directors serve on, just to give context and also to make appointments and reappointments as needed. Tonight, due to vacancies and term expirations, it's the Finance and Administrative Services Committee and the MGA, the Mid-County Groundwater Agency. If you want to make changes to any of the other committees, you can. And there's also a proposal, if the board's interested, to come back at the next meeting about consolidating the district's 3 standing committees.
Is there a form, can you explain how that would look or what your ideas are? Or?
Sure. So we haven't fully drafted a proposal. We'd bring that at the next meeting, but the idea is combine the current 3 committees into 1 or 2. We'd probably lay out both options for the board to consider. And I think we're thinking right now they would meet bi-monthly, and we'd invite all the current public members to serve on either one. And our hope is to just have a little bit more efficiency and participation, and we think that that might be a good idea moving forward. Ron, is there anything you
I
want
think
to
you
add?
summed it up. I think you heard a comment from the public this morning, along the same lines, saying, hey, is this an area where you could be a little more efficient? And so we're, bringing that to the board to evaluate. And I'll just tell you, amongst staff, there's various opinions, and that's usually a reflection of kind of how the board will think. But we'll lay out the options, as Emma said, and see if there's, if we want to continue to evolve on those committees or keep it kind of the same for the board. If they want us to come back the next meeting, or you have the right to take action tonight on those if you like. You get to the
Regarding the, should we not act on those? If we were thinking about,
Consolidate.
Emma.
Yeah.
yeah, I think part of the problem, when was the last time we set up those? Was it 2 years ago, right? I think we probably should renew the process every year, because the second year there was a decided tail off in public participation.
Yeah, it's always been designed, or I remember the direction from the board, modified as needed, right? We're evolving, so may need a different committee or may need less or something. So there's nothing, that's the beauty of a nimble organization, and we should change as the situation dictates. So what I think I'm hearing is come back.
Except MGA.
Right, okay, except the MGA, yeah.
that
Emma,
it?
you got the computer up. Which
23rd.
ones should they vote on tonight?
Yeah, so if you want us to bring a proposal back at the next meeting, then I'd recommend taking no action on the district standing committees, but still making an appointment for the MGA.
Can I just make a quick comment about the combination? I'd just like to see the infrastructure and public outreach combined, and then the finance and admin services be separate. I would love to have more outreach, because in the beginning, it's really robust. So anyway, thank you.
Can we get
I agree.
comment on?
I agree that the outreach committee is really important. Okay.
Any comments from the public? This
item.
Board appointments, standing committees. Okay. All right, that's public comment is closed.
No, I just was agreeing the importance of outreach. I don't think it ever be underemphasized.
So if, I mean, right now, MGA, I've been serving on it for a while. If somebody else is interested, that's fine.
I am.
There you go.
I go to the meetings anyway.
So
Well, I don't know, can we go to
Currently-
meetings if we're a board member and there's already 2 there?
I have.
I'll leave it to legal, yes.
Yes, there's an exception in the Brown Act for a quorum of the board to attend a noticed meeting of another agency.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Carla, do you still want to serve?
Yes. I think I missed a couple of meetings this year, so I'd like to have one complete year.
Yeah, okay.
My background is geotechnical engineering. That's what my master's degree is in, and I am not going to be working full-time next year, so I have a lot more time for the MGA, and I was hoping that I could be on it.
How about this idea? Carla and Rochelle, and then Jennifer as the alternate.
Sounds good.
That's my motion.
Second,
Perfect.
Thank you.
you have to vote on it.
We do have to do a, okay?
Yes, please.
So that was your motion?
That was my
I'll
motion.
second it.
Too late. I already did.
Oh, dang.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposition. It's passed unanimously.
And that would start right away, right? So like the meeting later in December.
No, I think it starts January.
That's what I'm wondering.
At
Does
least,
that start in January?
As it's
The
written,
meeting is this Thursday.
it's January 2024 to December 2024.
Okay.
Thank you.
well,
just
yeah,
like-
it's
just
just
like
on the, yeah.
Transition for vice president and president starts next meeting, is that right?
But the MGA starts in January.
MGA in January, sorry to confuse them.
Check.
And then just to review the JPIA, that's, yeah, fine. Whenever there's a local meeting, I'll go to that meeting. You know, Monterey or Sacramento.
Do we need a
The
motion?
Zone 5 and then the Zone 5.
I haven't been able to attend. I haven't been able to attend those meetings. So if somebody would like to attend,
I'd definitely love to attend.
It's
What day?
It's every 3 months, right?
says fourth Tuesday of the month at 10:45 a.m.
yeah, the table.
Okay.
I'll make the motion. Director Bob Boney is on the represents us in the Zone 5 Santa Cruz County Flood Control and Conservation District.
Second.
And then okay, all in
Vote.
favor? Oh,
Public comment?
I already commented on the whole.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's passed. And then the last thing is the LAFCO. And it says through, are you still a member of LAFCO?
2027.
She's good till 2027.
Until 2027.
7.
7.
That's what it says.
There's a typo in there.
And then, do we need a motion to have you bring back the standing committee, or is that just direction to staff? Okay. Great. Oh, yeah.
All right,
Back
so
to-
now we move on.
Director, President Christensen, let me just ask Emma. Emma, do we need to do motion 5 regarding Aqua JPIA? Did we do that?
President
Or-
Christian,
Oh, Carla spoke up for that? Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we covered all bases.
there was no vote, but there's
To reappoint, so maybe
I'll make the motion, just to be clear,
I'll second.
Oh, okay.
reappoint Carla.
Well, there's no, not even a term.
I just want to make sure we
We have to
covered.
vote on it. That's why I didn't.
Yeah, you were correct. I was wrong. I just wanted to make sure we were covering all bases. Sorry for the inconvenience.
So I did make a motion.
I second it.
We do have a motion and a second, so, just
Okay.
if
all in
it's
Aye.
comfortable,
favor?
we can simply vote.
Aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed?
Aye. I'm sorry, I'm in favor. I was delayed.
Yeah.
She's on a tape delay.
So sorry.
Is that it?
That is it, except for closed session, in which we allow
No,
public
need to
comment.
four point-
Moving over to
4.7.
item 4.6.
Oh, yeah.
Annual reporting of exempt and non-exempt surplus land, and it was pulled by.
By me.
Right.
I guess I need an explanation of the significance of being exempt and non-exempt,
Right.
and also what the plans are for the properties.
Great. So we'll team that. Nick Emery, our O&M manager, I think will come up to the mic up here. And Josh, are you able to handle the exempt, non-exempt? And then we can dive into the meat of it. Thank you.
I just couldn't figure it out easily.
We'd let it go.
I'm Nick, O&M manager.
Parcel size, and that's roughly the distinction between the exempt and non-exempt.
So you can still sell them for some nominal.
That's correct. You can sell them. And
Okay.
what has happened a lot of times in these cases is sometimes there may be an adjoining property owner who might want to slightly enlarge their property.
Okay, thank you. And then the plans for some of these,
There's no current plans for any of these sites. I think that there's been discussions in the past, but
And I can address that. I have a
Yeah.
little knowledge that predates Nick. If you remember, I don't know, a couple of years ago, roughly, the board, we made a decision. I think it might have been the time before we brought it back last time. The direction was, let's get Pure Water Soquel online because there may be need parcels where they could be small, but we need a pump or we need a reservoir or something like that. So at that time, and we feel comfortable, then we would be able to make some more recommendations that had some more thoughtful consideration behind them. But for right now, we're kind of stuck in that limbo.
okay, so we're now soon, we'll be able to,
Yep. But for
Go through
example,
the
the
process.
optimization study that we're doing may indicate that, I'm just hypothetical here, but it could indicate that a holding tank would be good to help recharge other parts of the basin, to help Santa Cruz, that sort of thing. So
probably nothing up in the Glenwood area.
probably not up in the Glenwood area. So that's probably one that can, we've had talk around that could come off. We don't see a lot of use. The Glenwood property, for those who don't know, it's roughly 100 acres. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah.
110 maybe. And it's a very steep ravine area that we had hoped way back when we could potentially build a dam on it and create a reservoir. Now, a dam is a four-letter word these days. Earthquakes came into the picture.
Right.
Certainly with NOAA, you see dams coming down, not being constructed. So, go ahead. And water rights have been fully allocated. We have no water rights to that stream, and Soquel Creek is fully adjudicated.
I think at one time we also considered, as we were looking at ways to save money or generate income, it was also to maybe harvest wood. What is the opportunities of harvesting wood from that property as a revenue stream that isn't affected, I believe, by Prop 218?
Yeah. So we're evaluating those things, and we
Okay.
certainly take the direction from the board, whether, proper forestry techniques to thin out the forest and generate some revenue. And like Melanie said, the attractive thing to that is it's not 218 limited, so it could help people that, we often try to help that we don't have a means to do that right
Or maybe you'll propose something in the future where that's an option versus selling them.
Yeah, well, we'll look at the economics of it. It might be better just to sell it. I mean, the proposal, you think 100 acres up there is going to bring a ton of money, but Taj, I don't know if you remember, but it wasn't. It was how much? Something in that range. It wasn't that great.
I mean,
It's not a,
might as well put it to better use.
yeah, right, exactly.
And if we do decide to sell, how long a process is that?
Josh, you have an idea on that?
Roughly. Months, years?
Oh, yeah, at least.
Months to short years.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for sticking around. One item he saw.
Public comment.
Public comment? I think we have a public
Thank you, Director LaHue, for pulling this. I have questions too. And I have wondered why the district has just clung to these properties when they could be sold. And it would be a very good time to sell them. The district certainly needs the additional money, even if it is a small amount. For example, the lot on Redwood Drive in my neighborhood, I do know that the adjacent property owners would likely be interested in it. So why not? Why not? Regarding the Glenwood property, I would like to see an analysis done in conjunction with Dr. Andy Fisher to see if this is a potential recharge area for perhaps a stormwater collection and managed aquifer recharge project. I'm wondering why the Capitola Avenue property that the district purchased as a potential treatment plant site for the Pure Water Soquel and purchased and demolished 2 historic homes on and sent off some Section 8 people that really wanted to live there. Why isn't that on here? Because under the definition of surplus property, you don't need it. Although it was purchased, one of the parcels, there are 2 parcels, I think there. One was to potentially expand office, but why not sell it? And there is also, of course, aside from land, there is property that the district owns, such as the trailer that was purchased as a construction trailer for the Pure Water Soquel project and sits empty because the district decided to lease another office space closer to the construction site, which makes sense, but there's that empty trailer. So I hope you will consider doing some recharge on the Glenwood. If you don't, then please sell it. Thank you.
President Christensen, I'll just say there was, again, some misinformation. We do not have empty trailers. They are office space, but, Thank you. That's incorrect.
The district owns that trailer, so it's not.
Oh, please, President Christensen.
Into back and forth, and Ms. Steinbrenner, please respect the decorum of the. Please respect the decorum of the proceedings.
Thank you.
The discussion about all that property is out of the purview of this item.
I think we're
good. It just says adopt resolution 23.
We would request a motion if the board's comfortable to move forward.
That's true. I move approval of the item.
I'll second. Do we have to do a roll call for this? I don't know, it just had
It's up to the board.
that.
Voice
Okay,
vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So I think that's it.
Yes, we'll be entering into a closed session. So that's the end of the public part of the meeting
From
tonight.
the public are invited to comment on closed session items.
Thank you. As a public comment on closed session, I just want to tell you again that I have taken all action, not because I want to, but because it is important and I care about the ramifications of what has happened, what has not happened. And it has taken a big toll on me, on my life, my family's life, but it is important, and that is why I've done it. I do not want to cause unnecessary expense, as Ms. Lather sort of insinuated, legal costs. I didn't want to do that, and I don't want to do it yet, but you haven't followed the law. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife has never been consulted, and that is law. That is CEQA law. You can laugh. Go ahead and laugh. But it is a law that the district collaborate with Fish and Wildlife to determine a set of mitigations that are legally enforceable. It is the law in CEQA. I don't have the code right here. I'll mail it to you. You can look at that. So I have only done what I've done because I care, and I'm not alone. Many people are very concerned, and I only wish that you could have delayed this a little bit, this project a little bit, because now, likely by the end of this month, direct potable reuse will be legal in the state of California. Hopefully, you will still use those expensive injection wells and inject potable water and partner with the city of Santa Cruz in ASR. Thank you.
Okay, we are now beginning closed session.
And President Christensen, I have a brief announcement on 8.2. For that item, the board will be meeting closed session related to potential litigation arising from an investigation by the Office of Inspector General related to meetings attended by Director Jaffe on behalf of the district.